slides. I have named this knowledge nugget as Am I Insane? Can we get the next one, please? Asta? Yep. So if you have your, this is the fastest finger first bit. Can you tell me what this is? Anyone who's unmuted?
One of course must be Jupiter, the largest planet, the blue one.
That's Earth and Mars.
Earth and Mars, okay.
All right, let's keep it at that. There's a blue planet on the left, and there is something on the background which people say is Mars. Let's take the next one. Next slide. So basically what I wanted to mention here is that that's the blue planet, and you're seeing something else next to it, which isn't all that blue and isn't all that beautiful. And it brings us to something which is, Earth and its most difficult problem, which is that the biggest problem of mankind is global warming and climate change. What is climate change or global warming? It's when greenhouse gases so needed for life, that means these are essential for life, they actually become lethal. And it's the phenomenon, this greenhouse gas phenomenon, is caused by an increase in carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. And the major source of carbon dioxide, which is CO2, is the burning of hydrocarbon fuel. Hydrocarbon basically means a hydrogen and carbon element, which we burn with the help of oxygen, and we create carbon dioxide. And if we have too much of it, things start getting hot. Can we take the next slide, please? So basically the question is that are we all nuts or what? In 2019, atmospheric CO2 concentrations were higher by any time in the last 2 million years. And the concentration of methane and nitrous oxide were higher than any time in the last 800,000 years. Global surface temperature has increased faster since 1970 than in any other 50-year period over the last 2,000 years. These are all done by scientific experiments and calculations. Temperatures during the most recent decade, which is the last 10 years ended 2020, exceed those of the most recent multi-century warm periods of about 6,500 years. So carry on, please. The next slide. So the other point is that global mean sea level has risen faster since 1900s than in any other preceding century in at least the last 3,000 years. Emissions of greenhouse gases from human activities are responsible for approximately 1.1% degrees Celsius of warming between 1850 and 1900. But in the last 20 years, the thing has averaged at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So basically the whole thing is that there is this critical number of 1.5 degrees Celsius, which all of us must understand. This is taken from the IPCC report. IPCC stands for Intergovernmental Program on Climate Change. Basically they have declared code red for humanity. Can we go to the next slide, please? What is this 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming? Basically, what it means is increasing heat waves, longer warm seasons, and shorter cold seasons. It's about intensifying natural water production cycles. That basically the water cycle, you'll have more intense rainfall coming associated with flooding, as well as more intense drought in many regions. Precipitation, which is rainfall, is likely to increase in higher latitudes. That means the northern hemisphere will have more rainfall and it will decrease over large parts of the subtropics. Don't ask me where India is. Changes to monsoon rain patterns affecting agriculture and health of over 1 billion people. This is what's going to happen. Can we go to the next slide? Can you just figure what you can see on the left photograph? Anyone? It looks like as if the sky just opened up. This kind of waterfall, it was about 48 hours ago, maybe 72 hours ago, in a city that all of us love. It's New York, but then everybody underestimates what happened in Delhi recently and everywhere. So basically it's there. On the right, you see another image, which is showing you something called the polar ice cap. And I guess you need to just check. I mean, have you noticed a big change? And if you have any questions, just ask me. What does that polar ice cap mean? That the Earth is warming. Can we go to the next slide? So now tell me, what is this? Is the image on the right just an artist's impression of what could be in a little while? Of course, we're way beyond our lifetime, but does that in any way have a serious kind of thought process that should start in your head? Let's take the next slide. This cartoon on the left is showing a figure pushing a stone, a big rock up a hill. Have you heard of this legend or the story of Sisyphus? Basically, Sisyphus was a chap who was cursed and punished for given an eternal punishment. He was trying to defy death, and the gods of Hades, Zeus, decided to punish him and put him in this eternal punishment, which is to carry a rock up a slope. And just as he thought he had achieved everything, this rock would slip back. And so there was one guy called Sisyphus who was pushing the rock. And there have been analysis done about this whole process. Now, Sisyphus basically is associated with a moral, which is that he was a happy man, actually. He didn't mind pushing that rock up a slope. And he was doing it only because every time he reached the top of the slope, he had a momentary sense of happiness. But there are a whole bunch of people who are standing around and watching there and asking, are we just supposed to keep watching this? Now, the image on the right is an actual photograph of a scientist leaving his workspace. It's somewhere in Central America, and he can actually, even with the naked eye, he could see a universe beyond. And that's a telescope which has a laser beam into space, just trying to penetrate that big universe, trying to figure out what humanity has as a place in this big universe. Can we move to the next one, please? So the basic thing is that, can we save this Earth? Can we stabilize temperatures, get clean air? And the answer is yes, there are people working at it. There are many people like Sisyphus who are trying to dissociate carbon dioxide, separate oxygen first from another, from carbon monoxide, and then onward to carbon and oxygen. China, for one, is trying to harness the hydel potential of the Himalayas. The Himalayas are known as the electric generator of the world. They've got huge projects on the other side and have got eyes on certain aspects of water flow on our side of the Himalayas. India is trying to make safe hydrogen fuel. If you think that the markets are high today, it's because there's a company and its owner that decided to announce their big green project. If you want to read that article, just just go onto the internet and figure out what Mukesh Ambani is talking about hydrogen programming and the gigafactories he's planning to do for it. And then there are those who are trying to understand the universe. But do we have time? Can we move fast, please? Now you answer this question. What is this? Anyone?
What the Earth will become the way we are going. The left one is the future projection with hardly any water in it.
Okay, I just want to tell you how very wrong we are. This is a poster which is outside the office room of a very famous entrepreneur and potentially one of the richest people on Earth. What you're seeing there is actually Mars. What he's seeing when he looks out into the universe is Mars on the left as it is today, and on the right, he imagines Mars getting converted into something that can support the Earth. Can we go up, please? The next slide. So this is what the guy says. He says, I would like to die thinking that humanity has a bright future. If we can solve sustainable energy and be well on our way to becoming a multi-planetary species and a self-sustaining civilization on another planet, to cope with a worst case scenario happening and extinguishing human consciousness, then I think that would be really good. So who said this? Somebody popped up with an answer. Let's take the next slide. Yes, it's Elon Musk. This guy dreams big and then puts whatever he has behind his dreams. There is some stuff on the about him. He started with $28,000. Actually, he reached from South Africa to Montreal with nothing in his pocket. Even his uncle, who was meant to receive him, was out somewhere and nobody received him at that airport in Montreal. So he started on the road. He created 22 million out of Zip2, sold it to Compaq for 307 million. He started investing in X.com and PayPal with a 11 million investment, which became 180 million, which he sold to eBay. And now he invested everything in SpaceX and Tesla, and has decided to live in a rented place. So he started from a rented place, got a lot of property, and then sold them all back. And he often runs out of cash, and he borrows from friends, and he's worth 150 billion in 2021. Let's take the next slide. It's a little more than 5 minutes suddenly, yeah. So basically, getting back to Mars, he's looking at Mars, and he feels, and there are some statistics about Mars where the temperature variations in Mars, currently it's a very cold place and got a terrific variation in temperatures, and Earth is less. So all that he's thinking about doing is improving the oxygen component of Mars and bring it to Earth and see whether something can happen about humans colonizing Mars. Can we get the next slide? So basically, it's about having this science in his head that there is a possibility of changing the carbon dioxide, which is 96% of Mars atmosphere, into an oxygen component, and then mixing it with other gases so that humans can actually live there. Of course, there are challenges. It's about the extreme temperatures, it's about radiation, about gravity, which is 1/3 of Earth, the air quality, the health and safety and cost, but he's got a plan. Let's take the next slide. So this question, he always asks everybody he meets, am I insane? Because in 2020, he's got SpaceX sending rockets into space. By 2030, he will do something better. And then he expects to colonize Mars by 2050 or so. So he plans to build a fleet of 1,000 starships, send 3 flights to Mars per day, each carrying 100 passengers per flight. And roughly in about 9 years, he plans to transport 1 million people on Mars, and his visions are there. Can we take the next slide? So the basic thing that this whole knowledge nugget is about is that, listen, if you see this image, what do you see there? It's that ostrich that's got its neck in the sand, and that ostrich is the people and inhabitants of Earth. And just taking a pun, they say that denial is not a river in Egypt. So it's better to start acting on it. Some chaps who keep asking that question, are we insane? Like Musk takes this huge issue and starts working on that particular issue. And therefore, I would say that we have to now bring it down to our individual lives. And what one can do is something very straightforward. We have to be water conscious. We have to be air conscious. We have to be fuel conscious. We have to start looking at our entrepreneurial ideas in business and see how carbon dioxide neutral can we make it. We have to be seriously into recycling, and we have to keep coming up with crazy ideas. Thank you.